All right. Well, I got some responses.
Did you?
Yeah. Good morning and welcome. As my good friend Jerry Reed used to say, we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. So this next 8 weeks, including this week, will be very condensed, and we will hit as much information as we can. And we will do our best to dole it out if you do your best to take it in. And as we do so, you may not understand everything that we go over, but let me share with you that I'm available any moment by email. I would say by phone call, but that usually doesn't work. So email is much better, because that way wherever I'm at, I usually get that. Phone calls usually don't have the time to take when you call at that moment, as some of you know.
Yes.
Even the people who work with me don't call me. They know that doesn't work. So anyways, this morning we're going to move forward. We're going to kind of move into that next phase. We prepared for it last week. We're here now. And as has been said a long time ago, the longest journey begins with the first step. So regardless how big your journey is, regardless how overwhelmed you feel relative to your financial situation, and maybe you're fine and that's good, and you're just wanting to get better, or maybe you're just okay, and you want to get better, and you realize okay isn't good enough, or maybe you're just in up to your neck and want to get out before you feel like you drown. But recognize that all those things are possible to move forward, all those things are possible to improve, but it's going to take steps, one right after the other. It's that putting your next foot in front of the other. You'll ultimately get where you want to go. So regardless how long your journey is, it really starts with your attitude. It starts with the thing we shared with you last week. Dave Ramsey's grandma said, those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still. So if your mindset is, well, whatever I hear, I'm not so sure it's going to work, I'll just give you this challenge. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, what's worse can happen? You're in the same shape you're in now. Okay, well, you probably won't get worse, and I'll guarantee you will get better if you follow. Last week, remember that we picked up a couple clues from our friends, the Three Little Pigs. And remember, the wolf is always calling. I read a statistic that 78% of us will undergo a major significant financial downturn in the next 10 years. 78% of us, 8 out of 10 people. Okay, so where are you financially? Can you weather a major financial downturn in the next 10 years? You need to be prepared for it, because for 8 out of 10 of us sitting in this room right now, it will likely happen if statistics hold. So whether it's health, job, whatever it might be, 8 out of 10 of us are going to face something significant financially in the next 10 years. And so remember, your financial plan has to not just work when it's good, when things are going well, okay? That's the kind of plan our country had. Okay, as long as things were going well, right up to 2008, 2009, everybody was happy, okay? But the moment things start to shift a little bit, and if the bottom falls out, your financial plan sucks, okay? You got to have a good financial plan, whether the economics are good or the economics are bad. And remember one important factor for Christians, that God doesn't need a good economy for you to thrive, okay? Not necessary, not required, okay? What is happening in the rest of the world does not matter between you and God, okay? It's your relationship that He cares about, and He wants to show you, as a matter of fact, that when the rest of the world is falling apart, that you don't have to, okay? That you don't have to. Now remember, hello, we'll be there in a minute. There, okay. So remember the number one cause of your money problems, you, right? It's us, it's me. I'm not the cause of your money problems, you're not the cause of mine, it's not some outside influence. Now, there may have been factors, remember, that occurred to you that you had little control over, but how you get out of that is up to you. So even if you didn't get yourself where you're at, although most of us did, even though you may not have gotten yourself where you are, it is up to you individually to make a decision to move forward. So if your money problems stay problems, you're the problem. So here's your financial mantra, remember? Okay, I am responsible for where I am financially. I am responsible for making it better. Okay, that's what you just got to say to yourself over and over again. Don't blame your boss. Don't blame the economy. Don't blame the circumstances. Don't blame your health. Don't blame. You're responsible for where you are. You're responsible for making it better. So debt is what happens when. Now it's time to fill in some blanks. What? Debt is what happens when what? Do you remember? When I obtain the I want it's before we can afford them. Okay? That's debt. In a nutshell, practically, that's debt. That's when we go out and get something we can't afford. That's it. Okay? Because if you could afford it, you would have done what? Paid cash for it. Okay? And would have had no debt. Okay? You would have just acquired it. You would have made an even trade. Here's my $100. Give me $100 worth of something back. Okay? That's fine. That's a great transaction. Okay, but it's, hey, give me $100 worth of something, and I'll gladly pay you Tuesday, okay, for that, all right? That's debt, okay? Debt is what happens when we obtain the I want it's before we can afford them. So winning at money is what? 20% what and 80% what? Knowledge and behavior. 20% knowledge, 80% behavior, okay? It's really not that much about what you know. It's what? Knowing what to do isn't difficult. Doing it is. Okay? Knowing what to do is not difficult. Doing it is. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's easy for you to know intellectually what to do. This isn't different than any other part of your life, by the way. Okay? Whether it's listening to your spouse, following your wife's instructions. Okay? You know you should. Okay? Most husbands know you should. You know you should. Okay? Because you just know life goes better that way, okay? But do you? No, you fight it, and you try to rationalize why you shouldn't and why they're not necessarily the most knowledgeable on a particular subject or whatever you come up with, okay? So knowing what to do is not difficult, it's doing it. And as we look at our lives and we say, hey, you know, the most dangerous place to be financially, you know, is this slide. Hey, everything's going to be fine. We'll get by. We're doing okay. It's all going to work out. There's plenty of time for retirement. You know, I thought that too at 30. Well, now I'm 55. Not quite so much time left for retirement, okay? Not quite so much time left. And so we go around living kind of like this guy does here. You know, we just kind of stick our head in the sands and pretend all of our problems are going to go away, okay? Guess what? They don't. The Calvary is not coming. It's not. Financially, the Calvary isn't coming. There's nobody coming to rescue you, to save you from your sorry self relative to the mess you've gotten into financially. It isn't going to happen. It's up to you. It's up to me. Financial success. Let's just define that one more time, okay? Financial success means, oops, sorry, I missed an entire point here. It's going to take what? Focus, intensity. And I say in parentheses, life and death-like intensity. Okay, just to get your mindset wrapped around how much intensity, to reset your money spending patterns, okay? So it's hit that reset button and start all over again. It's time to change the way you've always done it up till this point, okay? So focused intensity, life and death-like intensity to reset your money spending patterns. Financial success means this. Here you are, blank free. What's that? Debt free. Blank of savings, plenty of savings. Okay, we'll define that later. Blank is covered. What is that? It's an option for some of you. College is covered. Okay, for some of us, we're not thinking about college anymore. Been there, done that, past that. Paid off my student loan. Okay, we'll talk about college without student loans. Okay, blank is covered. That next column, what's that? This applies to pretty much all of us. Retirement. Retirement is covered. Okay? We took care of mortgage up under debt, we're debt free. Blank loss, not financially devastating. Job loss, not financially devastating. And then finally, give away much of income. Okay? We're giving away much of our income. Okay? That doesn't mean 90% of it, it just means much. Okay? What's left over? Once we're all done with doing the things we're required to do, we're giving away a portion of that for folks who stand in greater need than we do. And if you follow this plan, you will get to the point where you can give away much of your income. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be 3 years from now, but it might be 7 years from now. It might be 12 years from now. Okay? Very, 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 very possible. A myth is a false collective belief. I love this definition. It's a belief, it's not a truth. It's false, it's not real. And by the way, it's collective. A group of people have gotten together and convinced themselves that that's what's true. Okay? That's what's called a false collective belief. Okay? So just because a lot of people get together and say it over and over again, remember we use the example of abortion, right? Abortion isn't murder. What is it? Well, it's a right. It's a woman's choice. It's even legal. So it must be okay, right? No. It's a false collective belief. Just because a group of people get together and say abortion isn't murder doesn't make it not murder. Doesn't make it not killing an innocent child. That's what it is, because that's what God's Word says it is. There are absolutes, okay? Myths aren't absolutes. And you got to remember, in finances, there are a lot of folks out there espousing a lot of quote-unquote truths that just aren't. They're not true. They're myths. And just because a lot of people you hear saying over and over and over again that you ought to do something doesn't make it true, okay? Here's one of the biggest financial myths that exist in our culture today. Debt is a tool used to create prosperity. Another way of saying this is the best way to get ahead is use other people's money. Okay, use other people's money. Sounds good? Be nice. If I could go up to Brother Sonny and say, give me $20,000 of your money, and I'm going to go make myself rich. And he would say, what? Well, he might say different things, but one of the things he might say if he had nothing but money to spare is, sure, sign this document, and here's how much I'll charge you for that privilege. Because he has money to put to use as well, and his job is to make a return on that money, so the way he'll do that is charge me interest. And I've just now gone into debt, okay? And in so doing, I think I'm going to pay him 12% and then go make a great return on my money elsewhere. It's not going to happen, by the way. Does it happen? Yes, from time to time it does. Are there lots of people that you could point to that have gone this route and made money? There's actually a fairly good amount, okay? But also I can point to a lot more people who fit into that category just before 2008 and 2009 came about. And then guess what they have? Nothing. Less than nothing, okay? Matter of fact, I read an article about a guy who said he used to drive his Jaguar when he was financially devastated. He made sure he just, every problem that came in front of him, he wanted to still look as though he had plenty of money after the financial crash. So he made sure that his Jaguar stayed intact because that was his financial status symbol, right? So he drove around totally bankrupt, even though he hadn't filed bankruptcy yet, totally bankrupt in a Jaguar. To the outside world, he looked affluent, successful. But in reality, he was dead broke. And worse than broke, he owed more money than he could have possibly ever paid. So let's take a look now a little deeper into this financial myth thing. I just want to give you some. And by the way, we could spend days here, just days, going over these kind of examples. I'm just going to give you a few because I want you to see that you can't believe everything you hear. All right? Financial myth. Certain kinds of debt help lower income people or are a good way to cover emergencies. Think of things like rent-to-own, paycheck advance, those kind of things. All right? That's the group, that's the category of folks we're talking about right now. Those folks who say, well, you know, I don't quite have enough money today to get everything I need, so why don't I just rent you this refrigerator, and you'll be fine. You just pay for me a little bit at a time, and ultimately everything will work out, and you'll own it. And it sounds like a great concept, right? Let's do the math. Rent to own. A $714.35 washer and dryer combo only costs you $16.99 a week. Hey, I might be able to get $17 a week out and be able to handle that because I need a washer and dryer, and I need it bad, and I don't have $714.35. However, what they don't tell you is that's going to take you 100 weeks to pay that off, which is, if your math is correct, $1,699. So you just paid $1,699 for $714.35 washer and dryer. Your interest is, fill in this blank, $984.65. That's what it is, interest. You're using other people's money. And what do? They charge you interest for doing so, regardless of what else they call it. It's interest, okay? They have a cost of money. They're passing it on to you plus a profit. $984.65 in interest. If we calculated the APR, okay, The annual percentage rate, those of you who have home loans know what your APR is. It's 4.75%, or you have a car loan and it's 6.9%, whatever it may be, an APR, right? You know what the APR is on that? At $984.65 spread over 100 weeks? It's 106% APR. Whose book is that smart in? The company called Rent to Own. The Rent It Center. Somebody's gone, you can't believe how much money we're making. You can't. Wouldn't you like to get 106% return on your money? Wow. They do every day. Okay. How about a payday loan? I'm going to have a check coming next week, and so I can, or 2 weeks from now, so I'm going to get a $500 advance, and I'm going to write you a check, and I need $500, so I'm going to write you a check for $588.20. Well, I'm pretty desperate. I've got a situation. I got to get out of it. I'm going to do that. Okay? What's that cost me? Well, obviously, that's an easy one, $88.20, right? So $88.20 interest paid back in 14 days is what kind of an APR? 460% APR. Again, that's smart. How? Why? Do the math. So the myth is that these kind of loans help people who are maybe lower income or somehow need to get ahead because they're just stuck in an emergency, and this will help them get by. Truth? These are rip-off, predatory lenders who take advantage of folks in distress. That's all they are. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, the people behind the counter, they work there. That's fine. We're not talking about those folks. We're talking about the folks who came up with this brilliant idea to rip off folks in need. Because that's what it is. It's nothing more, it's nothing less. And in my estimation, they have absolutely no morals whatsoever. Next myth. Car payments are a way of life. You'll always have one. I remember hearing that for, all my life. Okay? You might as well just get used to it. You're going to have a car payment just the way things are, right? That's a myth. That's a collective group of people coming together and believing something to be so that isn't. Okay? Average payment, according to the government, is $495 for over 60 months. Okay? When somebody goes out and gets a new car, the average payment is $495 over a period of 60 or actually greater months. But we're using 60s. The number is actually 64. So how far are they financing cars now if your average is 64 months of payments, right? Like, wow. And those that pay off the loan do what? Go right back out and buy another one because they must need a new car because they just got finished paying it off and it's 5 years old now, so I must need a new car. Let's do the math. $495 a month. If I took $495 a month and I was age 25 and I put that in an investment account till I was 65, with just the average stock market return that we've seen over the last 88 years, how much money would you have? You'd have $5,881,800. Almost $6 million. Okay? So if I take $495 from 25 to 60, 40 years, I just put that same amount in there, and I just get the average stock market return. I'm not doing anything great, just getting the average. I would have $5,881,800. How's that car looking to you? Is it nice to have a new car every 5 years? Or would you like to have almost $6 million? Now, can you get there all the way? No, but what we're trying to show you is what kind of impact that amount of money could have used somewhere else besides buying an item that we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. Instead, do this. Take your $495 for 12 months and buy a $5,500 car. You're not going to like it. You're going to go, it's not new, and yeah. Here's a car's purpose in life, to get you from point A to point B. That's it. No more. Get your head wrapped around that. Okay? You don't have to look pretty doing it. So then drive that car for 2 years. But for 12 months of that next 2 years, just put another $495 aside for 12 months. Then take that car, your $495 for 12 months, go buy a $9,000 car. You're going to trade up. Okay, now you get a $9,000 car. Now you should feel a little bit better about yourself because I just doubled what looks like a car that maybe I wasn't too proud to be driving around in. Drive that one for 2 years. For half of that time, put $495 a month aside. Then take your car you have, the $9,000 car you have, that $495 for 12 months, go buy a $13,500 car. Drive it for 2 years. Repeat, repeat, repeat. At the end of the same 60-month period, you will have owned 3 different cars, for those of you who need change, right? Can't stand doing the same thing for too terribly long. For 5 years, 3 cars, not bad. Hey, you got a new car, Leland. Yeah, it's nice, huh? Nicer than the last one I had. Okay? You will have spent this much money, $17,820, a lot of money. How much will you saved? $17,820. Okay, because we were only spending $495, half the amount of time during this 60-month period. So instead of spending that entire $35,000, I've only spent $17,800. And I've got $17,800 to do something else with. By the way, if you invested that $17,800, the moment your 5 years was over, just took it in one lump sum and put it in the bank and forgot about it, 10 years later you'd have $48,240. $48,240. We haven't talked, but what you're starting to hear about is the magic of compounded interest. Norman Rockefeller was asked one day, have you ever seen the 8 wonders of the world, or the 7 wonders of the world? And Norman Rockefeller says, you know, I haven't, but I know the 8th. It's called compounded interest. Okay? Brilliant financier. He understood the concept of compounding interest. So the myth is that car payments are a way of life. You'll always have one. The truth is avoiding car payments, and every other kind of debt, by the way, is the way to build wealth, period. End of discussion. Next myth. Buying a car at 0% interest is a good deal. I've done this. It's a good deal. It's a good deal only when compared to the other deals, right? But it doesn't make it a good deal. It just makes it a good deal when compared to paying 12% interest. Okay? But that doesn't make this a good deal. Just comparatively a little bit less stressful on my wallet. Okay? So is it better? Yes. Is it good? Let me give one word to you. Fill in this word. Depreciation. Okay? Depreciation. Most houses appreciate in value when you purchase them. Not all, by the way, but most appreciate. Okay? Usually they do. Okay? Even though some of that appreciation was inflated in the run-up to 2008, 2009, but most still appreciate. That's pretty much a fact of life that's gone for a long time. You don't want to count on it forever, but it usually appreciates, gets more valuable. Why? We're building less land. There isn't any more of it, by the way. God only created so much of it. There's only so much land, and usually the good part's already taken up. Okay? So the better part you live in, the more expensive it gets when people have to drive 50 miles to get to work instead of 45 miles to get to work. So one word, depreciation, when you buy a 0% interest on this good deal loan you have. In the first minute, your average car loses how much? 11%. You drive your car over the curb, and it's lost 11% of its value. A $20,000 car now is worth $2,200 less just because you drove it over the curb. That's the truth. That exists. And that's by independent folks. That's not by my numbers. That's by Edmunds. It's by Blue Book. It's by anybody who looks at this industry. Okay, so how's that new car feeling? You drive it over the lot, and all of a sudden that $20,000 car is now a $17,800 car. Huh? Yeah, quit buying new cars is the cold here. After 5 years, the car is worth only 37% of what you paid. 37% of what you paid. These are averages. Not every car holds this. Some are a little better. Most are a lot worse, all right? Most are a lot worse. After 5 years, a car's worth only 37% of what you paid. That's a 63% loss in value. So give me your $20,000, and 5 years later, I'm going to give back to you $9,250. Sound like a good deal? Because if so, bring it. Because that's what we do every time we buy a new car. We trade $20,000 for a brand new car that I drive out the lots worth $17,800. And if I bring it back in 5 years, the true market value, true, not Blue Book and all these other things, is $9,250. And you see the chart there as it declines. Okay? Greatest decline happens in the first 2 years. That driving it over the lot, in 60 seconds, that's a pretty steep decline in value. Not a lot of things depreciate that fast. Cars is one of the highest appreciating things you can own. Okay. So instead, follow the above plan that we just outlined and never buy a car newer than 2 years old. Okay. Let somebody else be stupid. Let somebody else use the depreciation. Warranties now last for 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years. You don't need to buy a new car to get a warranty anymore. Used to be the reason. Well, I need to buy a new car because Okay. Well, trust me, new cars aren't paying free, are they? Just because you have a warranty doesn't mean they don't suck up your time driving it back and forth to the dealership to get it fixed. Okay. So 0%, something that loses over half its real value in less than 4 years, isn't really 0%. One more car thing. Why are we talking about cars so much? Because outside of your mortgage, it is the largest thing that we go into debt for. Okay, it's the largest thing we go into debt for. So, financial myth, leasing is a smart, sophisticated way to get a car until you lease one. And you have to deal with the consequences afterwards. You realize, maybe not so smart, and I'm not looking so sophisticated anymore. Payment's cheaper, absolutely. Because that's all we care about, right, is $16.99 a week for that brand new washer and dryer. And that's our mindset. I want it now, okay? So we go into debt, but we call it leasing because I'm not really into debt. No, you're just renting a car. It's, well, never mind. A lease. And by the way, remember what I told you. This isn't me yelling at you. I have done all of this. I've done it all, okay? I've tried it all. Okay. A lease is a long-term rental, okay? So don't say you're leasing a car. Saying, look at the car I'm renting, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. It's not your car. You're renting it. You will never own it, okay? A long-term lease rental usually has an effective rate of, this is the percentage rate, 9 to 14%. 9 to 14%. How's that stacking up against at least the 0% deal you can go get? Not so good. 9 to 14? Nobody's paying 9 to 14% right now with the cost of money. You do if you lease a car. You just don't see it. It depends on the money factor, this funny thing they call the money factor, right? And the money factor is what banks charge each other and what the current money factor is. And they multiply that number by 2,400, it becomes your APR. Who knows this stuff? The people that sit in the back office of your car dealership and that you never see, they know this stuff. I got a boss that knows this stuff. He has this stuff committed to memory somehow. I don't know how he does this. We can talk about a lease. He goes, yeah, charge him this much. How'd you figure that out? Well, you take the residual value and you add the depreciation, you multiply by the money factor, divide by 2,400, and that's your lease payment. Okay, whatever. And he did most of that in his head. So 9 to 14%, depending on the money factor, but you wouldn't know that because remember the truth in lending laws that came into effect years ago? Whenever you buy something, they have to disclose things to you. Guess what they don't apply to? Leases. They have to tell you nothing about your financial situation relative to your lease. Tell you one thing, your payment. Okay, here's your payment. Here it is. It'll look good, $16.99 a week. I love that. Yeah, and I'm driving out in a brand new whatchamacallit. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody by picking the wrong brand. Okay? But you wouldn't know that because truth in lending laws just don't require interest rate disclosures, just like if we finance something at a purchase. So here, number one, you better trust the dealer since you don't see the magic of their lease calculations. How many car dealers do you trust? Okay? Car dealers are like the second to the last thing that people trust. You know what's right below them? Lawyers. That's it. So the worst trusted group of people in the world, lawyers. Second worst group, car dealers. But you're going to trust them to get that right. And by the way, they can just put, oh, we forgot to add this $100 fee, and we added this, and we added this, and we added this, and we added this. You don't know. You just don't know, because you see one thing, the payment. Oh, sorry, that payment, we're off a little bit. It went up $5.95 a month. Oh, okay, no problem. That's $1,000 to them. By the way, prepare to pay the mileage factor, 10 to 17 cents a mile, once you exceed the allowable 10,000 mile limit per year. Average profit for a car dealer. Just some information for you to get you an understanding of what goes on here. If a car dealer sells you a car for cash, you walk in and say, here's my cash, I'll take my car. You know what the average profit they make on that car is? $82. $82. Okay, by the way, we don't sell cars in order to make money on cars. The car industry exists to sell parts and service. Okay, that was free. Okay, now, when they finance cars, do you know how much money they make? If they get you to finance that car, that number is $775. $775. They've almost multiplied their profit by 10 when they finance a car. When leased, they make $1,300 per car. $1,300 per car. Okay? So what do you think they want to do? They want you to lease. Okay, here's the truth. Leasing is dumb. It's the worst way to get a car. Worst. Short of stealing. I mean, this is the worst legitimate way to get a car. Okay? All right, so moving forward, you must change your attitude about debt. You must. It enslaves and does not build wealth. It merely lets you get your I want it's before you can afford them. Debt costs too much, and it's contrary to Scripture. Contrary to Scripture. How many of you remember this book? How many of you remember this book? Well, maybe you don't remember this book. How many of you remember this movie? I do. Baby Steps. I love this movie. Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss. Richard Dreyfuss was a psychologist, and Bill Murray was his patient. And he said, I just can't get out in the world. And he says, baby steps, I wrote this new book. And of course, Bill Murray goes on to hound Richard Dreyfuss for the balance of his life. And ultimately, Richard Dreyfuss is committed to an insane asylum because of Bill Murphy's hounding. But the principle is you can get anywhere if you simply go one step at a time. And that's what we want to talk about. The steps we're going to take are baby steps, okay? You can go anywhere if you simply go one step at a time. If you're 300 pounds overweight, out of shape, can't move a muscle, and tomorrow you decide I'm going to lose 100 pounds, and you go to the gym, you lift every possible weight you can lift, you run 5 miles, and you starve yourself, tell me how you're feeling at the end of the day. Okay? You're going to give up, you're going to quit, or you're going to die. Okay? So we don't solve our financial problems all at once. We solve them one step at a time. Okay? We stop eating for a little while, we then go run 5 miles, then we start lifting weights. Okay? The key word here is focus. So as we take these baby steps, each step towards financial peace and success must be taken in the right order. Must be taken in the right order is the fill-in. You can't go around the system, you can't game it, you can't skip something. You got to take the steps, they've got to be in the right order. Just as a young child learns to walk, will be clumsy and not very productive, that's the way it's going to be at first for you. So have this word, patience. Patience. Okay, you need patience. And some of you are not long on patience, and this is a great place for God to work on patience for you. Okay? With each step, the goal will get closer. The goal will get closer. One more thing before we get deep into this. Remember the point about focus and intensity early on? It is the blank of focused intensity that makes this plan work. It's the power. That is where it all rests. Focused intensity is all about this plan and making it work. Okay? Add these two factors to a change in behavior, and literally there will be no stopping you. Literally. I have read accounts of people following this plan who have just done some amazing things in very short order and thought never possible. And their situation was bleak. It was horrible. It was just verge of bankruptcy, should have probably filed bankruptcy. So here are the 8 steps to financial peace. Here they are. Stop, drop, and tell is step 0. We'll talk about that in a second. Step 1, start an emergency fund. Step 2, pay off all non-mortgage debt using the debt snowball effect. Step 3, finish your emergency fund. Step 4, invest for retirement. Step 5, prepare or plan or pay for college. Step 6, pay off the mortgage. Step 7, build wealth and give. So one more thing. Remember the point about focus and intensity? Okay, so one more thing again. Remember that point? Do not be tempted to dilute your efforts. Do not be tempted to dilute your efforts. Perform one and only one step at a time. Some of you are out there busy paying $10 extra on a credit card plus an extra 2% to your 401k plus $20 a month in savings. You will significantly take longer, and you will provide, by doing this method, no feeling of accomplishment or progress. You'll just think, I'm getting nowhere, because you know why? You aren't. You're getting nowhere. You're getting nowhere. So, step 0, stop, drop, and tell. Why is it step 0? Well, it's a prerequisite. Okay, prerequisite. Okay, proceeding without doing this leads to failure. So if you don't take step 0 as that prerequisite, just like a college course, they won't let you take the next class. Well, you can try this next stuff, but it will fail. So stop creating debt now. Stop creating debt now. If you don't do anything else, just quit creating debt. At least the balance of your life will be a little simpler because you're not creating this avalanche that's coming down upon you. The consequences are devastating of debt. If you don't stop, you'll never have financial peace. Never. Underscore that word. That is a true statement. You can't change it no matter how much you will it to change. Keep going into debt. You'll always live in financial ruin. Period. Next, drop a little more money in the offering box than you think possible. Now, I've not encouraged many of you to do this too often. I've just tried to tell you the principle, let you make this assumption for yourself. But try it, okay? Here's 2 things that will happen. First, you'll be abiding by Christ's command to seek first His kingdom. First. So before we pay anybody else, before we save money, before we do college, before we do anything else, we're going to first take care of God. Don't worry about how much. Don't worry about 10%. Don't worry about a tithe. Don't worry about anything. Just say, well, I just can't. Well, then put in $1. Okay? God will bless it. Trust me, He will. I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. Okay? If I think I can only put in 10, put in 12. He will bless it. It's what He does. Number 3, tell your money where to go, or it will just leave. Okay? You control your money. Your money doesn't control you. You control your money. P.T. Barnum said this, money is an excellent slave. It's a horrible master. Excellent slave, horrible master. Zig Ziglar said this, if you aim it at nothing, you will hit it every time. Zig Ziglar, great success coach. If you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. If you don't aim at something, you're going to hit nothing. Okay? You'll hit right on the mark. You'll get nothing every time. So, question about this, without a written cash flow plan or a budget, see those exclamation points and those dirty word symbols there? Without a written cash flow plan, you'll never reach total financial peace. So, if you don't stop debt, you'll never have financial peace. If you leave God out of your plans, you'll never have financial peace. If you don't have a written cash flow plan, a budget, you'll never reach total financial peace. Never, never, never. Those 3 things are essentials. If you bypass them, kiss accomplishment goodbye. So, one more little factoid I want to give you. Study of Harvard graduates. After 2 years, the 3% who graduated, who had written goals, the 3%, so 3 out of 100 people had written goals when they graduated. 97 out of 100 did not. The 3% who had written goals achieved more financially than the other 97% combined. What is the power of having a plan? God says, who's going to build a building without first sitting down and counting the cost? Who would go to war without thinking about this first? Without a plan, without reasoning it out? You're stupid if you do. We don't like that word, but that's it, because ignorant is when we don't know something. Stupid is when we know something and choose not to do it. Okay? So here's cash flow planning basics. Set up a new cash flow plan every month. Now, I'm going to have William come here, and he's going to start handing these out. This is all the paperwork you're going to need to get started. Set up a new cash flow plan every month. Don't try for a perfect plan or a perfect month. Some of you are so anal, you think it's got to be right down to the penny and everything's got to be just right. Get it close. Just guess. It doesn't matter. First month, you'll get better every month. You'll get better. You'll refine. You'll change. You'll learn. You'll understand. Don't try to get it perfect. There is no such thing as an average month. Okay, some month you're going to have a $100 grocery bill. The next month you're going to have $150. The next month you're going to have $125. The next month you're going to have, those are too small numbers, but you get the point, right? Okay, so set up a new cash flow plan every month. Don't try for a perfect plan or a perfect month. Here you go. Spend every dollar on paper. Spend every dollar on paper before the month begins. Before the first of whatever month you're planning for comes, you spend every dollar on paper. You tell your money everywhere it's going to go. $552 is going to rent. $123 is going to whatever. You tell your money on this paper we're giving you where it goes. Okay? Give every dollar of your planned income a name. Don't just go, well, I got this money over here, I don't know where it's going to go. Give it a name. Okay? Eating out at McDonald's, buying Starbucks coffee. Okay? Whatever it is, give it a name. By the way, if you're married, work on the plan. Here's a word you hate, together. Okay, together. And agree on it. If something changes in the middle of the month, call an emergency meeting with your spouse. Just say, hey, we just got this bill, what do we do? Okay? You must agree on what the change is, right? And your plan must still balance. That means if you're going to spend more in one area, you've got to decrease something in another area. The goal at the end of this form is to be at what we call zero-based budgeting. I don't remember what order these things in. I think the first one is the Sampleson family, right? Okay, so that just lets you see how this works, okay? I will send you this stuff electronically. You'll get it and have it. But this is how it works. The next one is for you to fill out. The one after that should be your record of your finances, spending, and the next one is the categories again for you. Let me see, where am I? So, one last statement. Money flows, here it is. Money flows from those without a plan to those that have a plan. Money flows from those without a plan to those who have a plan. By the way, MasterCard has a plan. MasterCard has a plan. They got a dang good one. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? So Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. The longest journey, I don't care how big your journey is, I don't care how deep you think you're in debt, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Take the first step. No more debt. Give a little more to the offering box. Make a plan. And by the way, if you need help, email me. So if all this looks like, oh, you just threw all this stuff at us, okay, obviously we're crunched for time. I have an email. I'd be happy to help you. Once you email me, I can pick up the phone and call you because I know what your problem is. I know what you're trying to understand. We can talk. If you want a phone number, leave me a phone number, and I'll walk you through it. It's not that difficult. If you want it electronically, send me an email. I'll send you the electronic spreadsheet because I know some of you just can't operate without operating in a spreadsheet. So, right, Alyssa? All right. So there you go. God bless you. This is going to work. Hang in there. And remember, if you aim at nothing, that's what you're going to hit every time. Next week, we're going to talk specifically about starting an emergency fund, okay, and how you do that and what it's for.
How come you know that about me? I think I did my cash flow.
Do you want this, or do you want me to move this out, or?
Scott, you know me well enough. Do I have to email you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's why I'll remember to do it. I mean, I know you'll want one, but if I forget.
You know, I actually have
Good.